Hey Hollywood Hills fans, and welcome to our second show of 2021. Now, as you've probably seen with the last couple of seasons of Hollywood Hills, we've been in constant development. There's always some new ways and new things to talk about. So throughout lockdown in 2020, when we were kind of like scrambling to know like how we're going to figure things out and how we're going to keep feeding information and keeping you guys entertained, we came up with a Live on Lockdown, which developed into Live on Hollywood, where we got up close and personal and got to meet a lot of the riders, a lot of you guys out there, and we did find a lot of new stories to work with as well. Now, kind of like following on from that, moving into 2021, and as the season starts to kind of come into play, we're only a couple of weeks away from actually going and filming our first events of the season. But in the meantime, we wanted to come up with a new concept. So me and Ivan were chatting a couple of days ago, and we said, you know, we've got to know the riders, we've got to know the races, and we know a lot about the results and the dudes and girls on the bikes and quads. But what about the machines themselves? So this is the first of many episodes and a bit of a series that we're going to be working with and introducing you to what the guys and girls are riding as far as the juniors, the senior motorbikes and the quads go across all the categories. And we thought it's time to get up close and personal and meet the machines underneath the riders. So, you know, at the beginning of a season, it's always a little bit of a crazy one. So we will get more in depth and start talking maybe to a couple of like tech guys, suspension guys, and just what it takes to actually make the bikes rock and roll and race ready. A lot of the guys use the slogan, ready to race, but even those guys will admit that they'll throw a pipe on, they'll change the suspension, they'll change the tires, they'll change the grips. A couple of guys have got different setups in their bars and things like that. So we're gonna get up close with the nitty gritty. The first kid we're going to look at is going to be a new kid on the block, and I mean that in every sense of the word. As far as manufacturers go, we've been talking about maybe the top three for the last couple of seasons. It's been a bit of a monopoly over the KTM, Husqvarna and Yamaha front. Now for 2021, there's a new injection of excitement coming in from different brands. Gas has been picked up and come underneath the KTM umbrella. So that means KTM have got three brands underneath them, KTM, Husqvarna and Gas. So it was always going to be exciting to see who was the first person to swing a leg on a Gas. Well, as far as internationally goes, Gas have teamed up with the Troy Lee Motorsport team over on the AMA Supercross side. And this weekend, it was actually Justin Bam Bam Barsha, not our own Bam Bam, that's racing on the GXCCs with us, but Bam Bam Barsha on a 450 Gas gave them their first ever Supercross win out at Houston this weekend. Following on from that, I've been speaking to a couple of people. I've been waiting to see who's going to get on it. We now know that Travis Teasdale and Matty Green are going to be out there on the Enduros. But as far as the GXCC goes, which is very close to our family and our heart, it's going to be one of our junior riders, the reigning 50cc champion on the GXCC gate, Matty Mayer. Now, historically, he has been on Husqvarnas and KTMs. Now he moves across, as he moves up into the 65cc gate, onto a Gas. Obviously, these are pictures of him just picking up his wagon at one of the dealerships and putting in a little bit of time and prep doing the setup. So we know that this is pretty much run-ins, and a lot of guys are going through that. So you'll hear me talk about that on the show quite a lot. They're simply doing shakedowns and run-ins, making sure everything's good with the bike. Then they'll take it to the workshop and start throwing all the shiny, beautiful stuff on it. So that's Matty Mayer. We're going to be going in depth with that bike over the next couple of weeks and check it out as he develops that machine. The other riders that I've been chatting to, and there are tons of guys. Remember, we're going to be talking to our champions to start things out, and then we'll start working our way down the queue. We'll be talking to motorcycle riders and quad racers as well, and we may be breaking off into a couple of the enduro riders. But it's very, very early days in 2021, so check out these pictures. This is Maddie Wilson, our reigning and unstoppable 125cc champion who has jumped across now onto a Husqvarna 250 four-stroke. So this is straight out the box. You can see it doesn't even run decals at the moment. He's probably so nervous to actually go and ride this thing, but remember, they'll run the bike in, they'll put a couple of hours on it, they'll do a full strip down, they'll put it back together, and we're expecting to see these things rolling out with not too many changes. Most of the guys on these modern machines will throw pipe, tires, like I say, maybe change up the plastics, change up their decal kits, and then they've got preferential things like the kind of bars and the grips and maybe the kind of foot pegs that they run. But most of the time, they're not changing too much of that down the pipe. I have been chatting to the quad guys as well, so we're going to be speaking primarily. The first quad that I want to be speaking to, obviously, is our champions. So on the Q2, CD Goosen, who's put in a ton of development over the last couple of seasons with fast KTM on his 500 machines, and of course, Gideon Jacobs. He's been developing a Yamaha for the last season. He didn't have the best year, you know, he still had problems, so I think there were still teething issues that he wanted to work out on the Yamaha, but we know that he'll probably develop that even further, and he'll obviously try and retain his Q1 title. So his Q1 will be Gideon Jacobs, and Q2 will be all about CD Goosen on that fast KTM. We're also going to be getting ourselves ready. I had a lovely message coming in from Husqvarna South Africa's Fred Fensham, inviting Hollywood Hills, which makes me feel very good as well. It makes me feel part of the media full out. So thanks for Fred for giving us the tip of the cap there and getting us on board. So he's got a team launch coming up this week on Thursday out at Kailami. So me and the lads will go out there, do some filming. We'll understand what bikes the boys are going to be on for his enduro, motocross and off-road cross-country racing team. And we'll try and have a chat with the riders, check out the bikes, and obviously have a chat with Fred and talk about his plans. And then watch out in the future as well. And it should be the very near future as well. The new kid on the block and the big talking point, aside from Gas, is Kawasaki coming back into play. So Kawasaki have been out in the wilderness for a very long time, and it's actually Peps and Plastics. Ian Pepper has picked this up after years of support, and he was basically the factory support crew coming out of Husqvarna. He has now changed allegiance, has gone green racing once again with Kawasaki South Africa, and they're waiting for their cross-country machines to come in. They haven't quite landed. We know that Kyle McKenzie has been putting tons of hours on his 250 motocross bike just to kind of get some base settings on the suspension, particularly before they go across and get their bike set up. But it's kind of like one of the best case worst secrets. We know who the riders are, so we're not going to talk about it on the show. When we go to the launch, we'll be able to get up close and personal and talk to the riders then and introduce you to the new player on the block, which is Kawasaki, coming back in after, I think, well over 7 years of not racing on the national championship, certainly with factory support anyway. So that's something to watch out for. There's a lot of industry noise happening at the moment, and Hollywood Hills is going to be part of that, bringing you up close and personal with the riders' rides, seeing what the bikes are and the tech that goes into them, and trying to get a little bit more in depth and more involved. We're not just going to be talking about the factory superstars as well. So if you want to introduce me to your new bike, I know everyone's got a new bike, and even if it's an old bike and you put a little bit of tweak in coming into the 2021 season, give me a tag, send me an email, we'll have a little chat, and we'll see if we can make some noise about your bike, quad, or enduro machine as well. So check that out. For now, guys, just have a great week. Keep training. As far as I know at the moment, after an incredible week of a ton of meetings with a lot of the key players in the industry and behind the scenes, it does look like alles is mooi and we are good to go. The calendars as they stand have not moved, so it's definitely EWXC racing on the 30th of this month. On the 13th of February, it's going to be GXCC round number 1, and on the 13th of March, it's going to be Farm Jam round number 1. There's a ton of other stuff happening out there as well, but those are going to be our focus points at the moment. For now, Hollywood episode 2 in the bag, and we hope you like what we're doing now, focusing in on the rides under our factory riders.